Ask a Painter Live. It's a weekly live Facebook show where I use my over 2 decades as a craftsman and an entrepreneur to answer any of your questions. So again, this is a forum for business owners, for clients, for DIYers, anything you've ever wanted to know about paint, painting, tools, equipment, processes, coatings, whatever. This is what we're here for. So today we have an awesome show again. I am actually home based today, which is great. I will be joined by Chris Shank shortly for the contractor question of the week from the PCA, the Painting Contractors Association. And then I'm going to talk about some basic business building stuff that you need to know. So there's some systems, there's processes, there's some basic numbers, and one of the big things that I wanted to cover today was the most important number that every painting contractor should know every day, all year, everything, that would change the entire industry if everybody knew, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. So let's see if we can get Chris Shank up here. All right, so Chris Shank. I'm running off Wi-Fi today. Let's see if I can bring Chris Shank up here. Chris, I'm not seeing my little button down here today, so I think it's because I'm going on Wi-Fi. Why don't you see if you can request to go live, Chris? If not, why don't you type in the contractor question of the week here? And my apologies too. We're switching up our phone system here, or my system for doing Ask a Painter. So it's we're having some issues. The last one, when I was in Chicago, when we tried to do this too, we couldn't get Chris Shank live either. So we're gonna figure this thing out here. All right, let's see what we can do here. All right, so in the meantime, Chris, if you don't have the button to request to go live with me, just type in the contractor question of the week, and we'll get to it here. Otherwise, I'm going to talk about some basic things about building your business. So, adding people. Yeah, Chris, everyone need Chris Shank live. Listen, man. I think you and I think we should probably do a practice show between now and then. I think this is 2 shows now where we've had complications going live, and my end has changed on here since then. So either something's changed about Facebook Live, or the new phone here is not doing what it used to. So yeah, no problem, man. If you can't request to go live here, just type that contractor question of the week there, and then we can correspond through comments and stuff here too. So. So I get a lot of direct messages when I go to Chicago, like I was last week, or Denver the week before, and talk to other contractors. They're always curious about building their business. They don't really know what step to take. And the most important thing you can have a foundation of when building your business is going to be tight, proven coding systems and processes. So you don't want to add a whole bunch of people to your company if your processes aren't tight, if you don't know what's going on. That just causes so much chaos. And everybody knows that I love to do tightly controlled scientific experiments, or as tightly as you can control it. I really like to have my stuff airtight, and you want to remove variables from the process before you go forward. So I tell you what, we're going to pause with that, systems and processes. I'm going to get to the most important number you should know as a paint contractor. Let's go with the question of the week with Chris Shank here. So tell us about caulk. What are some of the top caulking tips to help people caulk? Okay, so this is a fairly easy one. Number one, when you break the caulking thing down to the basic, you want to find something that's readily available, comes in lots of colors, easy to work with. Cost is really not that big of a deal, but if you can find something relatively inexpensive, that's good too. You want something that's going to be a good quality product as well. And especially when you run a business too, you want to have something that's readily available. You want to be able to get it everywhere on short notice. You don't want to have something that's special order, can't be shipped during the winter because of freezing, stuff like that. Even if it is a really product, it creates a lot of pain points. So exterior caulking and interior caulking, the most important thing that I can say is the most important tip I can give you about caulking is do not apply it to bare wood or unprimed surfaces. Over the years, I have seen marked differences in the lifespans of caulking, sealants, joints when something is fully painted or fully primed and then caulked. The disaster scenario if you play it out in your head, is cedar siding outside of a house. A carpenter just takes raw, wet cedar siding, installs it on a house, caulks every one of the joints, and they're like, yeah, it's perfect, it's ready for paint. So you oil prime the thing, you put 2 coats of paint on, and within a couple of years, all those joints end up coming loose because the wood will move, and as soon as a crack develops, water gets in there, and the wood is not sealed behind there, it's bare wood, and it holds moisture, the caulk delaminates, and then that's one of those instances when you're looking at one of those lap siding edges, kind of zigzag, you could just zipper all that caulk right out of there. So the biggest tip I can give you is find something that's relatively good. I mean, the lifespan ratings on these caulkings is almost ridiculous. You know, most caulks are 30, 40, 50 years. I mean, you have to paint your house every 3 to 7, 3 to 10 years anyway. So it's kind of ridiculous when you buy, oh, let's go for the 50-year caulk. Don't expect that stuff to last that long. Make sure your substrate is fully primed and then put it on. We do that inside and outside. With outside, that's an obvious one. Oil primer, water-based primer, seal up all the wood, everything's dry, stable substrate, caulk everything, and then apply your top coats over the top for aesthetic reasons. For inside too, we do the same thing. So we SVT all of our woodwork and cabinets, we sand, we vacuum, we tack rag everything off, we prime everything, and then we caulk all the cracks in there. Number one, my people like to actually prime everything white and then see all the cracks. It really helps you visually pick out, you know, if there's a big crack, a small crack, or if you missed one like there. It's really easy to visually check and see if you've filled all the cracks. Number two, you're caulking over a primed substrate. So we go back and forth in the company. I've tried just about everything, as you can imagine, tools, little things like that. Honestly, it's still one of the things where I take a cotton rag, I tuck it in my belt, my legs, I have a finger like this. I use a nice dripless caulking gun like that. It has, I have even a little holster for mine too. So you put that on your belt, your caulking gun can go in there just like the old West holsters. You apply your bead of caulk. I like a very small amount of it if you can. You strike it with your finger, you wipe your finger on that rag that's hanging off your belt and move on. So there's lots of other tricks and techniques. There's a wet brush technique, there's wet rags, there's Q-tips, there's all this and that. Every time you add a little complexity to it, the benefit that you get from it should be more than the complexity that you're adding, because if somebody doesn't have a bucket of clean water or Q-tips with them, now you can't perform your system. So it's very much more difficult. But that's the sort of thing that I would recommend. Those are the biggest sort of tips when it comes to that. Obviously, with interior stuff, caulking is really aesthetic. You're not really preventing getting a longer life out of it. With exterior thing, you want to prevent water from getting in things. So if you got a tiny little knot hole, a big knot hole, fill it, caulk those cracks. Watertight is the big goal. So Mario, thanks for watching. John Busek, also from California. Chris Shank, we're going to solve this dual live issue. We're going to get you back on because I miss your deep points of wisdom, your deep thoughts, and your poetry excerpts as well too. So we're going to get to this. Thank you so much, Chris Shank, for doing this every week with us. We've been traveling all over the place. The schedule's been wonky, and he's been right in there with us. So, all right, so let's talk about more business building stuff. So number one, deep foundation of systems and processes. So there's two basic sides to the business. There's the actual business, and then there's the painting side. The painting side should be the first thing you if you started off like I did as a one-person painter like this, you can take all the time in the world. We're usually very fast painters, very good painters. We can provide a lot of value to the client. We can take the time to experiment with all sorts of coatings and processes, dial them in so there's no question about what you need to do when you see a Victorian mansion, how to prep and paint something like that, or interior fine woodwork, cabinets and millwork. Get those systems down so that when you start hiring people, you know exactly what to teach. If you're learning along with people, it's not going to be good. Now, the business side is a whole nother thing. If you're an insanely good painter, but you cannot go out and estimate and sell a job or operate at somebody's house and give them information and prices effectively, it's going to be a very tough road for you. So you kind of want to operate on those two things. There's the systems and processes. There's the coding stuff, and then there's the business stuff. And get your sales process down and figure out what your clients want, what their biggest pain points is. Find ways to fix it, and then just talk about those. You don't need to divulge all the information, all the experience you've ever had in your life. Give them the information they want, listen to them, get that system down like that. Get a system for your estimates so that they're orderly. Get a system for invoicing. I always like to leave the invoice before we leave the job, just as a point of fact. You know, there's no reason to wait a week or two to put your invoice in. I like to do my estimates instantly, as most of you know. And yeah, so basically get those systems tight so when you want to do more of that, you're not also fumbling around with, oh, my estimating system isn't good, or I don't know what primer to use on this, but also we're going to add a bunch of people. That doesn't work out. So systems and processes in both of those things are huge. Now, I want to also mention Purdy. They are great underwriters of the show. They are huge parts of my systems in this business too. So number one, a hallmark of my company is simplicity and quality. And what I like to do is, even as far as brushes, we use a few brushes. We find the best brushes, the Purdy stuff that we use. We use a lot of the Pro Extras for interior cutting, the Pro Extras for brushing outside. We use Elascos, things like that. Nylox is one of our favorite enamel brushes. I've tried everything on the planet. I take the best stuff I can find, put it into a system. Now we don't have any variables. When we brush enamel, we use a Nylox. It's a great brush. It's good. You can get them everywhere, and they're of great value for the price. So those are part of our systems too. We take the best stuff we can get like that. Let me check. Let me check one more thing before we go on here. Also, with the Sherwin stuff too. So the highest quality tools for the max production, they can make even beginning painters very good. So if you start off people with inferior tools, it's not going to be a very good road for you down the road with all that stuff. So even some of the Purdy stuff that I use, you're at least taking out the variables of, bad brush, bad painter. They may not be a great painter right away. You can train them, but they got the best tools, and it makes a big difference early on like that. They also create a lot of efficiency in there too. So if anybody has used a brush, not very good brush versus a very good one, you're going to see a huge difference in the quality and the production rate of what you can do too. Cleanliness too is another big thing. A lot less drips and things like that. They also last a lot longer too. So you can, what we normally do is 2 or 3 times a year buy a whole bunch of brushes in bulk, get them out to the crews, use them, and they usually go 4 to 6 months in all of our jobs. We do hundreds and hundreds of jobs a year, and then by the time that they start getting a little old, then we just infill with another one. But that's a long time to put these brushes in use for 8 to 10 hours a day every day of the week. So it's a very good thing. So also getting the correct tool for the job is a very important thing too. So make sure that you have done the research on what brush, what roller, all that stuff to do, so that before you put that stuff in people's hands, it's a proven technique and you guys aren't all learning together. Another big thing that we've done in the last year or two here is to partner with people like Sherwin to help us run our business. And by that, I mean, we work with a very good local store here. We have good relationships with everybody who works there, the manager, my rep, and we basically say, you guys have this system. You are a business. You want to do business, and so are we. So let's get our systems in sync here. We have a paint ordering system. They do nearly daily deliveries out to our shop. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing, and you'd be surprised how willing a lot of businesses like Sherwin are willing to work with you. If you have a good business, you're running tight systems, they interact and interlink with those very easily. So not only do you get super high quality coatings and any coating you basically need, and we're talking industrial, commercial, residential, commercial stuff, all that, but if your process tight enough where you can do an online ordering system through their website, or you can do email orders set up through your rep or your store, and this stuff can arrive same day depending on your buying power with all that, and it really is another system and a process to keep your business rolling. So also, when we're in people's houses like that, we can spec a lot of finishes. The coverage of the paint is really good, so we can save clients money on 2 coats versus 3, and the finishes of, especially some of our favorites being, like the cashmere and the duration matte on the inside and stuff like that. The finishes are just so refined and so sophisticated that our clients love it too. Designers as well that we've been working with. So. And also, just doing business with a business is always more efficient. Everybody's goals are aligned, and it seems to be a good thing, especially to grow your business like that. So, okay, so I'm going to talk about the most important numbers that you can know in your business. If you want to grow a business, or if we want this industry to change, the one thing that I would suggest to all businesses is to learn how to job cost. And I'm going to actually show you a simple and a complex version on this, but I'm going to tell you why in a little bit here based on all that stuff. One other thing I should probably talk about before that is when you grow your business, one of the things that I've experimented with greatly is you have to have clear deliverables of your people, and this is something I'm still working on. But everybody operates when you give them one thing, they give you another agreed on, and then you can measure it, and then it's provable. So if you hire somebody and say, I want you to work hard, I want you to do great work for people, I want you to make happy clients, we can all sort of agree on that stuff, but unless you have a way to rate that or prove that, your employees won't really know what to expect of you. What exactly is good work? What exactly is fast work? What do you expect of me? And when people don't have clear expectations or clear deliverables, they don't operate that well. So I've been really dialing in, collecting all these numbers. Job costing was a huge part of it, to get these numbers to say what I expect out of my people. So I'm going to show you an example of this here, but I will say this. Learn your paint coating processes. Get them down airtight. When you start hiring people, ask 1 or 2 or 3 specific things of them, rate them on it, and then follow up on it. Don't just, force majeure, throw a bunch of plate on them and stuff like that. So, business side is, let's go to Steve-O. Business side, as a one-person business, 7 months, and really excited. Oh, nice, man. Congratulations on starting your business. Any advice on the next step? Marketing transitions to identify my company's strengths and identify to get job leads or sales for that matter. So what I found, Steve-O, is that up until about somewhere between $300,000 of revenue and $500,000 of revenue, so that means usually somewhere between like 2 and 6 employees, what you're going to find is that a lot of stuff is word of mouth. So what you do is you make connections in your community, one job leads to another. You can usually build a business like that. If you do want to create leads from nothing, I would obviously start, get your website going like that, keep it active, keep it updated, have somebody help you with it if you need to make it efficient, maximize the value of it. Get on social media and start just posting. Don't have a specific campaign in mind. Just get content out there, make it look good, and make it align with what you do. Start on Instagram, start on Facebook. If you're good with any of the other ones, the ancillary ones, start doing that too. Getting content out there. It is way better to start doing stuff, start putting stuff out, than to say, well, I'm going to wait till I have the perfect idea, and then that turns into yours and you don't do it. It's way better to just start, and I did that 10 years ago, and it really paid off. Now, if you're still not getting enough leads, then you have to go to places where, up until that point, effort will get you leads. After that, what you're going to have to do is probably spend money to get leads. And I've done experiments on all things you can imagine. Honestly, the best way to get leads is a fairly expensive one, which is direct mail. You identify who your clients are, your typical client, a typical house that they live in, and a typical job that they would want. You print out a postcard or a mailer or a flyer, and you deliver those to houses. And you can go door to door yourself if you're slow. You can have employees do it. You can hire companies to do it. You can hire companies that physically take a person door to door. You can have companies that print them and mail them for you. Fairly expensive, but honestly, it works. Google ads and all that other stuff, yes, it's fine, but you're not going to get the return at least in our market for what we do. I've seen a huge increase in lead generation just based on direct mail, and it's not the sexy way to advertise. You want some magical formula or algorithm on Google leads, and that's expensive too, but it's a little bit harder to prove. This direct mail is very tangible. It's very easy to prove, and honestly, in our core demo, they still respond to it. So I can certainly talk with you offline, Steve-O, if you want to too. Aaron Johns, how do you get work? I think that's just about it there, man. Steve-O, just finished that and currently doing that. Content advice beyond before and after. If you need content advice, just go to my Facebook or my Instagram thing, and you'll see that there is no through line through any of it. I find cool stuff either on job sites or my personal life or my business life, and I post it, and it basically gives people a feeling about what I do. If you see something cool, do it. That's what I would do. I don't even think about it. Stuff that appeals to me. If you as a person your feelings, your being truly aligns with the business you've created, anything you think is cool, your clients will think is cool too. So I basically just do that. Whatever I think is interesting or cool or might be cool for somebody else to see, just post it. There's always value in it to other people. So, okay, I want to talk about one of the most important numbers every business owner could learn. Now, I think when I talk to painters across the country, a lot of people contact me and we talk painting business, coding science, employees, clients, things like this. And I find out that not a lot of people know if they're doing well or not. And the way to know if you're doing well or not is job costing. So I'm going to take you through some of this stuff here. So this is, let's pull this up here. So this is a form of job costing that I do. This is not complex. It's basically addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. I color code it. I make it fancy for my business so that we can reference it quickly visually. But this is nothing more than a math equation, and a simple math equation I'm going to run you through. So I'll walk you through this stuff. But basically, at its core, a job cost, and I'll say this. After talking to all these painting contractors, a lot of guys don't know what they're doing or how they're doing. If every painting contractor in the United States started job costing after every job, a job cost is basically how much money did you make, how much paint did you use, how much labor did you use, and then a number spits out, and then it tells you whether it's a good job or not. If every painting contractor in the United States did this, instead of judging their success by what it feels like when they open up their checkbook, they would judge it by, okay, I just completed a job. Here's how much paint I used, here's how much labor I used, and here's a numerical value for how that job went. And I'm going to basically show you what I do here. So this is a basic job cost. If you think about any job you do, and this doesn't even have to be a painting business. This could be a plumber, this could be a tech company. There is a job that comes in. And for this job, let's just say it's a $1,000 job like that, okay? Let's say we used gallons of $50 a gallon paint. So we'll just call it $150 worth of paint. That was our expense there. The labor. So the labor is, you basically say how many hours did you take on this job. And let's just say you had an employee that works for $10 an hour. Or even $40 an hour. It doesn't really matter. If you have an employee working for $10 an hour and they worked 40 hours, that's basically a $400 labor expense. Now, if you have a $40 employee, a very highly paid, efficient employee, and it only took them 10 hours, it would still be $400 worth of that. So basically what you're looking at here is on a $1,000 job, materials should usually only be 15%. This is an industry benchmark. It's going to be different for every company size. If you're a smaller company, your labor is going to, your materials are going to be a higher percentage. Either way, you can sort of jockey with these numbers and start working with them. But on this job, we used $150 worth of paint. We used $40 worth of, or $400 worth of labor, and that gives us something called gross profit. So this is basically what did it cost us to get this job produced? So this does not include your overhead, your office, your vans, your things like that, because it's not directly relatable to the job. The things that are directly relatable to the job are simple. You painted a bedroom, you charged some amount of money for it, there was some paint involved and some labor, so take the money that they paid you, minus the paint, minus the labor, that's technically gross profit. And that percentage, whatever that percentage is of the revenue, is how you rate your job. So for an average size painting company, at least 5 people, 10 people, give or take, you want to see this gross profit number be about 40%. Anything over than that is better. Anything under than that, and you either bought too much paint, it took you too long, something like that. Now in my company, we have a production manager. We have somebody that oversees all the field laborers. So I have something called field management, and that is a portion. So we can't necessarily tie it to a single job because she kind of jumps around all over the place, but she does have that time attributed to those jobs. So I basically say, assume it's going to be 5% of the job. So we'll attribute about $50 worth of that to her. So on a $1,000 job, 40% gross profit is our goal. And this is an example of exactly a job that hit the perfectly, which means basically For the price you sold it for, you used the right amount of paint and the right amount of labor. So we have a $1,000 job, $150 in paint, which would be 15%, $50 worth of Holly's time, my production manager's time, and then $400 of labor leaves us 40% gross profit, and that's the goal. I used to do this back before I digitized or computerized my company, where I had paper estimates, and basically after every job I would sit down on my tailgate, I would flip my paper estimate over and say, here's how much money I made on this job, here is the amount of paint, here's the amount of gallons, the cost per gallon, and that would tell me how much my materials were. And then I would just basically take that, and because I was a sole person, you don't have to put in a labor cost, you figure that out. You basically take your revenue minus your paint, and then and if it took me a week to do the job, 40 hours, you take that, divide it by your 40 hours, and it said, okay, this is how much money you made per hour on this job. And that basically tells you, was that a good job, was that a bad job? If the hourly rate was very high, then you have to figure out, oh, did I sell it for a greater amount? Was I super efficient on this? Did I find some way to give the client value but still finish a little quicker? Or if your numbers are way off, if your revenue per hour is very low, your gross profit is low, then you also have to figure out, like, okay, did we just overbuy paint? Did we buy 10 gallons too much? Or did it take me twice as long because of weather inefficiencies, or because I didn't know I was doing things like that? So I have a feeling that if every painter in the United States, or in the world for that matter, did this after every job, they would start attaching data to their feelings instead of just running their painting company off feelings. Because how many times have we all been sitting around talking to other painters saying, oh man, I get told all the time my price is too high. That's a feeling, and we weight that a lot more than all the jobs that are accepted that say, no, your price is great, or oh man, what a deal, that's great. We put no value on those, and we put all the value on people that tell us we're too expensive. So all of a sudden we go back home and we start making sweeping pricing changes to what we do based on a few anecdotal pieces of evidence, when really if we did this, you could basically say, no, you know what, this person said my price was really good, and it turns out it was good for me, it was good for them, everybody provides value, and we go on. So, all right. Evan, hey Nick, how do I remove airless sprayer tails from a smooth door? Tough one. So if it's an oil product that you're using, like an oil primer, it sands fairly easily. I would try sanding. If it's a water-based product or a hybrid product, they sand much more difficultly. Let it cure for a long time until it gets really, really hard, and attempt to sand them out. If they don't sand them out, you may have to just scuff sand the whole door and then skim coat it with a filler to do that. It's very difficult. You can always chemically strip that stuff, but that starts getting into a whole nother mess too. So yeah, very tough though. And depending on the type of coating you used, very, very difficult. So all right, Matt Varga, just talked to him the other day. Oil, yeah. So hopefully, if you let that oil cure for a whole bunch of days, you can go back and sand all those tails off like that. Steve-O, and developing those bread and butter, does that help that gross? Well, it depends. That's step two of a 30-step process. So there's really no secret to who is our core demographic. I mean, if you look at who calls a painting company and pays a painting company for services, if you add up all the, we do hundreds and hundreds of jobs a year. I've been doing that for, over a decade now. You basically say, you look at your typical client, or the client that most typically calls you, and it's basically, you want to say 40 to 70-year-old women is the core demo. That's the most frequent type of person who calls me for a paint job. And yes, there are people who are not that, but that is the most of it. If you own a motorcycle shop or a Harley Davidson retailer, there's a chance that your core demo is going to be 40 to 70-year-old male, and it won't be my core demo. It's just who is attracted to your product, who makes the initiating call, and who sees those through. So yeah, I don't think you have to discover who your core demo is. If you're a residential repainter, that's going to be very likely the one that you're going to be in. If you're in commercial, now you're into contractors and stuff too. So you may want to figure out, geography, types of projects they do, the size of the company has a big deal. But if you're in a residential repaint situation, I don't think you have to discover who our core demo is. I think it's there. Yes, certainly they're going to be different, but if you ask a lot of painting contractors from around the country, that's probably going to be about it. So, okay, let's see what else we got here. My notes, and then we'll see if we can't call it a Friday. So, oh yeah, there was something else I was going to share with you guys. Yes, and any question you guys have too, we can fill in with that stuff. So again, just make sure, especially when you're dealing with tools and with coatings, people like Purdy have developed some of the finest pieces of tools on the planet. They develop it for every type of coating system, every type of coating you can find to last long and do well. Remove a variable from what you have. And just say that is a solved issue. We buy good brushes, we buy good paint, and we're going to go forth like that. Train your people well with good stuff. Get them used to having the good stuff. That's what I found in the past too. It's very tempting to say, well, they're just a trainee, just get them some crappy tools, whatever. It's the technique, it's not the tool. Get them used to what you do right away. So, even our young apprentices this last week, we're out there spraying in the shop and things like that with very expensive spray equipment, and we're not going to get them a crappy sprayer or keep them from it just because of that. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much. Thank you to the PCA for being an awesome underwriter of this show and for providing the contractor question of the week, and to Chris Shank for always being there for us, providing that question. Thank you to Sherwin for being great underwriters of the show as well, and a partner in my own business, and for Purdy as well for providing all the tools that we so love and use every day. So, all right, everybody, I'll be on here a little bit later too if you guys want to get in any questions, things like that. And we got one more. Steve-O, those hard copy deliveries, have you found a more successful style people respond to? Yes. Whatever is genuine to you works. Is a unsatisfying answer, but honestly it's the right answer, which is if you're a company that specializes in exterior, you really want to show people that you're a value company, that you're going to provide a lot of value for them, that you're going to provide a long-lasting finish, that you have systems in place. For me, almost all my advertising has to do with interior stuff. So what I focus on are the three main things, the three main hurdles that people have when hiring a painter for interior work, which is, I don't know, I got all this furniture to move, and contractors are horrible and they leave a mess all the time. So you can start talking about why we use oil primer, the molecular science, it's so great. Honestly, people care about, I don't know what color to choose, who's going to move this furniture, and who's going to clean up after you're done, because contractors leave a mess. So I focus on the things more on client services and the client experience than I do actual coating signs. And one interesting thing, and I may bring him on here one of these times, I took along one of my great craftspeople. We call him Fresh Alex. He's recovering from a knee injury, and I want to keep him involved in the business. So he actually drove my mobile command unit around with me in the back in the office typing away. And he went to a bunch of estimates with me, and we walked through together. And his biggest takeaway was how little people cared about paint. They did not ask what kind of paint, what kind of shine, how you going to do it, what kind of tools, drying times, shines, things like that. People did not care or ask about that. What they cared about was, how long is this going to take you? How much is this going to disrupt my life? What is this going to be like in the house? Is there going to be a smell? Am I going to have to put my cat at a boarding place? Am I going to have to move out? How are you going to do it? Are you going to take over my house, or are you going to do a couple rooms at a time? How do we pick colors? And that was his biggest takeaway. It's like, we focus a lot on painting because we have to be good painters. He was really surprised by how little people actually cared about paint. It's all about the client experience. And if you think about it from the client's perspective, they pay a lot of money to basically open their house to strangers and just let bedrooms and bathrooms and living rooms and kitchens, and we're digging around in their cabinets, and we're in their house being very intimate with the place that is their safe refuge. And we need to respect that, and we need to develop systems around that to gain their trust and then keep it. And nobody's perfect, but we try really, really hard, especially as contractors. We have such a bad reputation, and I would say rightly deserved, after generations of people sort of haphazardly going through and not really thinking about it. And I think we need to turn that it is happening, especially with all the people that I correspond with on here. So, Steve-O, that affirms some things for me. Thank you. Many are product crazy. I've been trying to get a client connection experience to my advantage. Absolutely. And it's all the things that contractors don't want to do or are not good at, which is like care for your clients. Think about if this was your house, how would you want it treated? And Christian, happy Thanksgiving to you too. Thanks for watching Cosmo Painting. And any tips for a new business? If you'd be more specific, Evan, I'd be happy to help you in any way I can. So, all right, guys, thanks again. Thanks to the PCA, thanks to Sherwin, thanks to Purdy. You guys are great underwriters of the show. That helps me bring all this stuff to you guys. If you guys have any questions specifically about this stuff, I'm always happy to help offline. I'll be checking this feed later on. Thank you all. Have a great weekend, and we'll have another show next week. It'll probably be after Thanksgiving. So having said that, happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and we'll talk to you later.